Building your business with the end in mind. Most founders are so focused on the daily grind that they're often not thinking about or preparing for the ultimate goal, which could be to sell the company. Today, the do's and don'ts for growing your business through the eyes of an entrepreneur who has built and sold more than 20 businesses and now specializes in guiding others. Expert Connections starts now. From tech to wellness, cleaning to exotic cars, our guest today has built and sold a range of businesses, a variety of industries, as you just heard, over the last 2 decades. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. Our Startup Connections expert today, Christine McDannell, founder of the Magnolia Firm, an internationally digitally focused M&A and business brokerage firm. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Julie. Quite the intro. Thank you.
I'm so excited to dive in because there are so many directions we could take this conversation. Before we talk about your work now, I want to really paint the picture for our audience with your experience and the businesses that you have built and exited. I know that you can relate several times over to the fact that many in our audience are in the more early stages of growing a startup. So why don't you start by telling us about one of your first ventures?
So the first one was Cleanology. It was called Christine's Cleaning Service first before I understood branding. I was 23 years old. I was in real estate though. So my real estate license, prior 5 years property management experience, started really young in the business corporate world. But yeah, I knew I was born to be an entrepreneur and work for myself and create my own destiny. So started that company with $300. I cleaned condos in downtown San Diego for 1.5 years, every single day, bartended at night, paid my bills. It was like a wild time. But when you're 23, you have all the energy in the world. And I just knew I was going to grow, big company, have employees. It was kind of a means to an end. As I'm scrubbing a toilet, I'm not like, oh, this sucks. I'm actually like, okay, this is just going to get me to that next level. And I'm going to have a team and I'm not going to have to clean in the future. I actually enjoyed it in hindsight. It's funny because it was very mindless. So now when I'm in tech or when I'm in, doing strategy and negotiations and your brain, I get so exhausted. But with cleaning, it was like, oh, it was just more mindless. So I feel like I get, more tired doing other things. But yeah, it was just a fun ride. And so I sold that within like five or 6 years, I think, and exited for 6 figures. And I was still in my 20s. So that was we were 37 employees at the end of the day. And and so we're our largest privately owned in San Diego.
Okay, so to pause for just a moment, I have to also say there are some days when I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I was cleaning my house instead of doing whatever financials or doing whatever proposals I'm doing. Not to downplay the hard work that is, but sometimes you just gotta, switch it out and do the lesser of the tasks. You took this cleaning company and grew it to huge numbers. What are some key lessons you learned in those early days?
I mean, I know there's this anti-hustle culture right now. And if you want a lifestyle business and want to grow very slowly and have a life, okay, great. I'm not going to that's totally one direction, but it is hustle, like straight hustle, crazy hours. It's not easy. I know Instagram's making it look easy, not the case. I think my other mistake, and again, I was young. So you want to learn mistakes early. I remember my P&L and I had an amazing bookkeeper. And so I was so all I cared about was hitting $1 million in revenue back then. That was that magical number. And in the cleaning industry, that's hard to do. That's all I freaking cared about. The problem was at the end of the day, I realized I'm like, whoa, we're bringing in like 400K, but there was no profit. So I was too busy thinking about the wrong number. Profit is first. Profit is so important. In the beginning, obviously, you're not going to have it because you're scaling and growing, but there's going to be a point, and this is important for the exit because that's the number your exit is based on. So it's just like cutting expenses. I mean, we went through the recession of 2008. And so it's weird. I felt it coming on. And so 6 months prior, I took my P&L and just anything that was not really needed, $1,000 a month on cell phones for my team. But I'm like, but they have their own cell phones. So what if I offer to pay a portion of their bills and let's get rid of this $1,000 and take it to 200. So we did that. And so, I think that that's important, is just focusing on the profit over the top line. Cause I see it all the time in any industry. So those were some quick lessons. In culture, I think, and taking care of your customers. So a killer reputation is number one in any business. If you can nail that, you're set. Secondary would be, having a an amazing culture with an amazing team. Put your team first over customers. I know that that's another, contrarian thought or approach. But I mean, if your employees are happy, your clients will be happy in turn. You just got to have their back. And the customer is not always right. I'm sorry, they're not. Yeah.
No, especially if they're not the right fit. We talk about that on the show sometimes, finding the right fit. And if the customer isn't right, then maybe they're not even the right fit for you. It sounds, Christine, like when, the first business, you maybe weren't starting out building with the end in mind. You have those big picture goals, but I would imagine that after that first exit, as you started building the next company, were you building at that point with the end in mind?
Ooh, that's funny. So I never do. It's so funny. I never know. I never have a dollar amount to hit or exit at, and I never have a timeline. It just happened to be like 5 years usually is the average, because at that point I can have systems in place and marketing. It's like a well-oiled machine, and team and managers. And like the only hat I'll wear forever is a marketing hat. So usually that's the last hat. And then they don't really need me. And then I get bored and just, yeah. So that's at the point where I'm like, oh, it's time to exit. So that's always been the case. Now with my tech company, which I had from 2018, 2021, I focused too much on the exit because and I knew not to do that. I knew better, but I still did it because in the tech world, that's all people are talking about, care about. And so I kind of got wrapped up in that, and it was a distraction. So I'm like, just hit revenue first. Like, don't, that's important. And concentrate on build for everybody listening. So she's starting out. You're going to spend the first 2 to 3 years, like, again, building the infrastructure. Just build an incredible company. That's all you need to focus on. Okay. Building amazing systems, building an amazing culture, team reputation, getting profitable. And then you start like working towards like, okay, let's make sure our books are super clean. If we were to exit, is our books clean? What's that journey going to look like? Do we need to turn on more marketing? As the owner, business is always wrapped around you in the beginning, always. Like that's a given. So let's start stripping some of this stuff off, because otherwise I'm going to have to stay on with the earnout, because like, how's this new owner, going to take my spot if I'm working crazy hours? So I would say those are the main things.
You've said that all except 2 of the businesses that you've launched since 2003 are still in business today. What do you believe has been the key to the sustainability?
Oh, great question, Julie. So I think finding amazing buyers. So that's, both my buyers were first-time business buyers, and so they, I think that's super. And that's something we're proud about at the Magnolia firm. Yeah, we can get, higher multiples for our clients and amazing offers, but we get them incredible buyers. I mean, they become friends with the buyers. They set them up for success. They're willing to help at any moment. So that, for sure, that's why my businesses are still, and again, it was a solid team and foundation. And I tell that buyer, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, please do not come in here and change a lot. Of course, it's your business, but if don't fix what's not broken. They always change the website for some reason, even though we have a beautiful website. I don't know why they do that every single time. It's kind of funny. Other than that, they kept my team, they keep everything rocking and rolling. And I think that's why it's really fun. And it happens a lot. I'll overhear, somebody here in San Diego mentioned Cleanology or mention Eco Chateau. And I'm like, oh my God, I started that company in 2003. And they're like, what? So that I get a lot of joy out of that. Just creation of stuff that didn't exist yet.
Let's talk about your work now at the Magnolia firm and your Grand Slam system that you have for buying, selling, and acquiring companies. First of all, what made you decide to launch this business?
So I did all my exits, even the larger software one, I did myself, except the Cleanology, because I didn't know how to sell business. So that one, I had a decent broker, but there were some things I'm not thrilled about on that process. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to do my own here on out. And I did. And then a couple of girlfriends of mine were exiting 2021, and they were like, hey, Christine, can you come on as a consultant and help? And I really enjoyed it. I was making great money. They got amazing exit prices, and they just were like, you got to do this for real. And so I was like, oh, I was going to have an M&A business brokerage firm, but like retirement plan down the road. And so I was like, wow, I want to do this now. And I mean, had a waiting list out the gate. It was crazy. It was fun. I loved it, but it was pretty crazy. And then I brought a business partner in. So I'm 2 years in almost. And I brought my business partner in a year in, because it was just like, so there's so much room for innovation in this space, and we need that. And so it's wide open, and that's the thing. When I see this like gap in a marketplace, I have to like fill it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it's just such a bad industry and there's so much missing. It's driving me nuts. So let's take that spot of number one and just grow as fast as we can. So that's what we're doing. And it's got an amazing team. So I can't take the credit. And yeah, that's how I started.
I can feel your energy, not to downplay the work that it takes and the expertise and all of that stuff, but I can feel your energy. And so it must be just fun to have this front row seat to see some of these incredible businesses, how far they've grown and where they're going to go next, and to be helping the sellers through this process. Your website mentions wanting to bring humanity back into the selling process. What does that mean to you?
So we do some fun stuff. So we actually have them kind of like manifest that perfect buyer. So I want them to write it out, and I want them to give it to us in the beginning, because then we can write our marketing and our team knows like how to attract that perfect buyer, because we have like, who is their perfect buyer, and spend time doing that. And then like a mantra that they come up with, that's like, I sold my business for $3.5 million, by this date, like being extremely specific. And again, this is at the exit. This is when they're listed. I sold it by this date. I found these amazing buyers, and it was a husband and wife team. Or like, the more specific they can get, the better. Kind of like your client, your customer avatar. Like, again, these are unique things where I'm like, okay, you make a customer avatar. Why wouldn't you do that when you exit? Okay, you make a pitch deck when you raise capital. Why wouldn't you do that when you exit? Because people are visual. So those are the unique things we do to attract that perfect buyer that nobody, and that's bringing humanity into it. In the data room, I do seller interviews where I'm interviewing the seller, all the questions a buyer is wondering. So then they see that interview. They don't necessarily need to tie up my seller's time and with the same questions over and over and over. So those are the things. And the whole team has the same ethos. Like, we're very honest. I want to know the elephants in the room, the skeletons in the closet up front, because most businesses are going to have one. So I'm like, okay, seller, like, I need to know it, and we need to tell it to everybody up front. Because like, I don't want it to be hidden. I don't want it to come up later in due diligence. So yeah, those are some things.
Aside from perhaps like those skeletons that sellers might not want to bring up to the forefront, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making?
I'll tell you one that's not a mistake that everybody thinks is a mistake, and it's word for word every single time. They get embarrassed that they don't know their numbers. And again, in the chaos, but they have a bookkeeper and everything. And they're growing, they're selling, and they're managing their people. And so they're embarrassed, and myself included. Like, if you ask, like this number, that number, balance sheet, a lot of them, and it took me years to read a balance sheet on my own company. So, I asked my bookkeeper a million times to explain it to me like I was a 10-year-old. So these sellers, that's, again, not a mistake. I mean, great. If you know your numbers inside out, amazing. It is super rare. I mean, an entrepreneur that does, super rare. And they always feel bad. A mistake, again, wrapping the business around, like not unraveling, like being a micromanager and not stripping yourself out of your company is a mistake. If you're micromanaging the entire time, that's not going to work long-term. Some other mistakes, I think those are the top. Again, the first one's not a mistake, but they think it is.
I'm glad you mentioned the finances. I mean, that comes up time and time again. And it's like, you have to remind people, well, you probably didn't go into this business and whatever industry you're in for the finances. I mean, like, maybe you want the outcomes, but you don't have to be a numbers person, just enough to know your business and know how to grow and know how it's functioning appropriately. We actually also have a financial connections segment, and we have an event coming up, just a quick plug for that. Financial literacy for founders, all the basics you need to know, from Ruben Levinson of Washington Avenue Advisors. So look for a link. I'll link that down below in the show notes. Okay, Christine, during negotiations, what are some common mistakes you see, and how do you and your team ensure that your sellers are getting fair value?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of M&A advisors and brokers, what they're doing is they're just using like, it's a 3x EBITDA multiple. Like, it's an art and a science. There is first off, I would say a business is worth what someone's going to pay for it. Like, you can't argue that. That's what it's worth. But it's like us building the value on top of that foundation of that. I mean, of course, it's, the cash flow out of the business. It's going to be that foundation. But how do we bump that multiple higher? We do it by how many years in business, how, longevity of the team, and are they going to stay around? Systems and processes, reputation. Our listings are A++ listings. We are so picky. We turn away like 95%. We're boutique, and that's why they sell so easily and quickly for us. because they already have I do more due diligence on our clients than a buyer does. It's crazy. I'm up on the Facebook comments and reviews. I'm in their Instagram comments. I'm like all over the place, BBB, like Yelp. So I think that's how we do that.
Okay, last question then. Tell us your perfect client. Who are you looking for when you're starting a new relationship?
Yeah, so we deal with digital-based businesses, strictly remote-based. It's recurring revenue a lot of times, which is a magical word for people. They love hearing remote-based, recurring revenue. So that's huge. So that's what we deal with. So these are digital marketing agencies, PR firms, graphic design firms, CRM integrators, and SaaS. IT firm events. So those are the ones, that are selling really well. People got a taste of COVID, freedom during COVID. So they're just like, I'm out of here. Like, I want to start my own business. Majority are first time buyers, which I'm passionate about also. I love that. So yeah, those, that's an ideal client. At least cash flowing, at least 100K bare minimum. And again, it's women mostly. It's so unfortunate. And I just spoke with 2 last week where they're like, I don't think my business is sellable. I don't think, anybody's going to want to buy it. I might just shut it down. And I look at it and I'm like, you've got cash flow, 20 years of business. Actually, a friend of mine, she had 20 years of business, was going to close it down. We were at brunch talking. And I was like, I could get you 300K for this. And we did within a couple months cash. And so she was literally about to shut it down. Another one was about to give it to her employee a month ago. And for free. And we got her 230 cash. So I'm like, so everybody watching, listening, again, if it's cash flowing, it's worth a conversation. You've built something, there's assets there. So that's, perfect customers for us. I mean, we're up market now selling multi-million-dollar deals, but just in my, I took these little ones recently because I speak with the women and I just want to help because a lot of people aren't going to take a small deal, but especially if I'm that 230 one we sold in 2 weeks. So I'm like, well, if I knew I could sell it quickly, let's do it. Don't, but it's unfortunate that women have this lack of self-worth on what they've built. They just don't see it like men do. It's really interesting.
Christine, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your insights. I will include your contact information in the show notes for anyone who fits the mold, wants to reach out to you. Christine, again, thanks for being on Expert Connections.
Yes, thanks again, Julie. Loved being on.
What comes to mind when I say Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Albert Einstein? Brilliant guys, yes, but what if I told you they all have something in common with their wardrobe? Steve Jobs, the late Apple co-founder, was famous for his black turtleneck, blue jeans, and New Balance sneakers. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg often wears the same gray t-shirt. He says it helps reduce decision fatigue. Albert Einstein actually wore the same outfit every day to reduce the number of daily decisions. In fact, the same is true about President Barack Obama. He once said that he always wore navy blue or gray suits, again, because he didn't want to have to make the decision about what to wear. And it's not just men. Hillary Clinton, Sheryl Sandberg, Matilda Kahl. Matilda's actually known for wearing the same exact outfit every day to work for 3 years. And she's an art director, so you know it's not for a lack of creativity. So these folks must be on to something, not wanting to make decisions about their outfits. But what if we could take that decision fatigue out of selecting an outfit in the morning, yet still make the best impression that's so critical in the business world? Our guest today says she can show us how. Expert Connections starts now. Image matters. That's the mantra of our guest today. And like it or not, we all know it's true. Join me in welcoming our business connections expert, Colleen Phelps. Hi, Colleen.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Colleen, we worked together decades ago in TV news. And so it's so fun to have you back for a totally different venture here. Colleen is now a certified image consultant and personal stylist. She worked as a news anchor and reporter for 2 decades, where, as you can imagine, image really mattered. She always had to look her best. Colleen has also worked as a college instructor, advising students on how to best present themselves professionally. Colleen, we know it's true that image matters. Why is it so important?
I think a lot of people overlook their own personal brand, their own personal image. We get dressed in the morning and there may be mornings that we're, a lot more flustered than others. And we just kind of throw something on and we kind of forget that we are showing ourselves to everybody that we run into that day. So at work, if you come in, if you've had a kind of a rough morning and you're not totally put together, you may not feel put together for the rest of the day. There's a lot of psychology behind image and color, and I found it all so fascinating. And I think it's just highly underestimated. And you mentioned we worked together, I worked for decades, and we worked together decades ago. Let's just say a few years. We don't need to say. We did work together. We worked together for a long time. And when you work in TV news, we have the benefit of working with image consultants. So it was at that point that you understand, and anybody watching this, if you watch your local news anchors, you'll know that they seem to always kind of pop off your screen. They're always in their best colors and their best makeup, and they look amazing. It's because we have the benefit of that when you work in television. And so I left TV and I started teaching part-time in a college here in Virginia. And I realized, oh my gosh, my students do not understand this at all. And we produce a student newscast, and they were not at all appropriately, dressed, or they didn't get it. And so instead of me just telling them, I decided to just invest in it. And I went ahead and got certified as an image consultant, a color analyst, and all the things, so I could work with my students. And then I really got into just color and the power and psychology of color. And I thought, this is something everyone should know. We should all have this information, this benefit about how to best present ourselves to the world, whether you're running to the grocery store or you have a full-time job on Wall Street. There's a lot of places that it's important that you show your best self.
I know I've been saying to you for months online that I need to get a color analysis done, because even those of us who understand that image matters and we're working to present our best self, whether you're meeting with investors, you're, pitching your business, or maybe you're leveling up for that next job, you really want to send the right message. Here I am with this show. I want to make sure that I'm looking my best, and also looking our best helps us to feel our best, which helps us to perform better. So Colleen, I have to ask, when it comes to color, even those of us who are trying to look our best may not be hitting the mark when it comes to color. Can you talk to us about that a bit?
Yeah, everybody has their best colors. So, and the only way to know that is through, professional color analysis. But when you know your best colors, it really does help you to look elevated. And especially in a business setting, you want to be set apart from other people in the room. I use the example a lot of like the color black versus maybe the color red. And I say, okay, if you're up for a position, it's down to final two, and everything on paper is equal. The resumes are equal. Everything else looks equal. People will tend to remember, oh, that girl in the red blazer. Yes, I remember that conversation, as opposed to black, because kind of everybody veers toward black. So you want to stand out a little bit in your own comfortable way. And knowing your best colors, I say red. My red may be different than your red. My red is different than my daughter's red. We can all wear the same color. It's just the shade and the tone of the color that we're looking for. And that's where it becomes tricky. But yes, color, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned the psychology of color, because there's books on it. You can study it for days about what different colors bring out in you. And you can deep dive into chakras and all that kind of thing, if that's your thing, but there's so much psychology behind color.
Okay, Colleen, I wore my favorite shirt today in my favorite color, and I'm hoping that you don't tell me that this is the wrong color for me. So I was very brave and I wore it anyway, but there has to be something about like what we feel good in as well, right? So I don't know. Okay, do I want you to analyze? Is this color? It's turning with the green screen. It's turning my hair pink, so we can ignore that part. But what do you think, Colleen? Without doing a full analysis.
No, first of all, you look gorgeous. So let's just say that. It's difficult to do a full analysis. A color analysis involves, which a lot of people don't realize, so much of your eye pattern, your eye color, and the pattern around your pupil. So there's a lot of analyzing of that. So when people are like, if I run into somebody, well, what's my colors? It's unless I stare into their eyes, I have to get their eyes and their undertone. So there's a lot to it. And then, we have all of these drapes that we use, and this is for in-person draping. I do virtual color analysis too. So there's a lot to it. So it's hard for me to just say, this is your palette, this is not your palette. I would have to understand, look more deeply into your eyes, and see what your
we'll spare our audience from that. I'll sign up for your service and I'll pay you to do a real full consult.
Absolutely look gorgeous, but yeah.
Okay, Colleen, let's talk about the colors and maybe show us. I know you can't show me my color palette right now, but show us maybe some of these differences, some of these subtle differences, maybe bigger differences. What do you have to show us?
I would love to show you. I love to use, there's a few celebrities that I think people can relate to, and it's hard to believe. We'll start with the beautiful Blake Lively. And I love these examples because when you see her here in the pink on the left, I love the color. I love that color. I love everything about it. She's tan. She looks healthy. That color is not in her palette. So the goal with best colors for people is you want to see your face and your features equally with the colors that you're wearing. So that color is just too bright for her. That would not be in her palette. When you look at the other picture of her, and honestly, it's hard to make Blake look bad, but I don't know who dressed her in this coat.
Right. We should all look this bad, but that
Right,
means
right, exactly. When we talk about Blake Lively looking bad, it would be our goal. But when we see her kind of in that trench coat, even you can tell her stylist went really heavy on the makeup there to offset, because that's not in her palette either. But it's still not working. Even with full heavy makeup, it's not working. She fades away in that. So in this example, she's overpowered by the pink, but then yet she fades away in this. So if we want to see her in her best colors, it's these. So Blake would be a spring. I'm a spring, so I can feel that. But when you see her in her colors, look at the change in the natural color to her face. And yes, she has makeup on, but as we saw in the previous slide, when she had makeup on, even heavy makeup, it still wasn't enough to carry her through that other color. So these are absolutely her best colors. She shines in these. You see her face, her hair, and the colors equally. Everything looks healthy. Her skin looks healthy. Her lips look healthy. Everything
just glowing in these photos.
Glowing. And a lot of it too is a color analysis also will tell you your best metals. A lot of people overlook jewelry. And there's some tips and tricks for that too. I'll tell you, because we'll get into people who love black so much. Some tips and tricks to that too. But here she's wearing her best metals. The one dress has gold in it, and that's her best metal. Spring, it's warm, very warm tone. She just looks really healthy in these photos. So really a big difference, even though, like you said, it is hard to make her look bad. Another person that I love to show examples about, and I just love her overall anyway, I love everything about Mindy Kaling. It's, again, she always dresses in her best colors. So if you follow her on social media, you will see that she's always in her best colors. I had to dig for these that are not her best colors. This lavender, you can see what it's doing to her face. It is pulling the color from her face, and her makeup's working extra hard to carry it. But even with makeup, it is absolutely not carrying it. Pastels are not from Mindy Kaling.
Yeah, she almost looks like she's not feeling well, right? Like it's like, I don't want to say she looks sickly, but she just doesn't look her best at all.
Yeah. I always say, yeah, unhealthy, because I have said that it makes you look sick. You know, when I drape people and they're like, can we not say that? I'm like, okay, let's unhealthy. You look a little unhealthy. You look a little under the weather. And I think the green on the right is another really good example of that. She looks sallow. Like, doesn't her face, can you see the yellowness to her face? So that green is pulling out yellow when she's a cool undertone. So we're not trying to pull warmth to her skin because it results in a sallow looking yellow. Then when you look at her, my gosh, in her best colors, she's a winter.
Wow.
Vibrant, bright colors are it for Mindy. And 98% of the time, she is in her colors. Black is a weird color for people. Only, and people don't know this because everybody kind of defaults to black when you don't know a lot about color and what it does to you. Really, only 20% of people can wear the color black successfully. Everybody thinks throw on black, everything goes with it, it's easy. Not everybody can, and it will, if I were to put a black top on, it would pull color from my face. You're too light for the color.
Isn't that interesting that it seems like as women, especially we're taught to wear black, that it goes with everything, that it's slimming, and who doesn't want a little bit of that?
Yeah,
in fact, we worked for someone who always wore black everything. And I think that was part of, kind of the not making a decision sometimes, just kind of putting out, if you wear the same thing every day. A lot of people in the entrepreneurial world, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg kind of, had that persona of just not spending any decision-making time on their clothing. But when it comes to black, you're saying only 20% of people can wear black?
Successfully. Only 20% of people actually have black in their color palette, meaning where it will work for you. So that picture of Mindy, my gosh, I mean, she is glowing. Look at her skin in that black. If I were to put a black gown on, my skin would look completely different. It's funny you mentioned Steve Jobs. A lot of people mention, he didn't put a lot of effort into that. And I like to say, well, when you make that kind of money, you can really wear whatever you want, whether it's in your palette or not. But if you're out there trying to, if you're in the nonprofit sector and you're trying to solicit donations, you want to present your best self, you want to look your most professional self. If you're out there trying to ask for a raise, or if you're working your way up the corporate ladder, all of these things subconsciously matter to the people around you because they're looking at what you wear every day. And if you're pulling out any of the colors, if you go back to the sallow face, they may not be so, want to put you in a front facing position, maybe. Whereas if you're wearing your best colors,
go ahead.
Because who you don't think, if you're putting that green on and you're just like, oh, I like this green, and you don't realize it's draining you, but your boss is looking at you all day long, and then there's somebody else in the office who's dressed in their colors, maybe unknowingly, maybe intentionally, they're maybe going to get the raise, the position, the front facing opportunities. When you're in a business position, you really want to present, you want those opportunities to come your way. So you may find more opportunities that come your way.
This is why I really appreciate what you do, Colleen, because, let's take, for instance, someone who wants to elevate to the fewer decision making. Every day you walk into your closet, what to wear. If you take the steps now to figure out what's in your color palette, you're buying the right clothing in the right color, the right fit. Doesn't that then kind of take that decision fatigue out of it? If you walk into your closet and you know that anything you put on is going to be good.
1,000,000%. There's several things. So when you know your best color palette, everything in your color palette mix and matches. Every single thing will go together. It just depends how bold you want to be. So I have, a bright pink is in my palette. My mentor is also a spring. She would pair that with lime green pants. Like, she just loves color, color, color. That's a little bold for me. I would wear the pink up on my face and maybe like white pants. But yes, it all works together. I was in a store the other day, and there's really a muted palette. So that would be in between autumn and summer. So there's 4 seasons, and then there's what we call flow palettes, 6 flow palettes. So if you're between seasons, that would be muted. So I walked into the store, everything in there was beautiful for anybody with a muted palette, but I kind of looked around, I was like, nope, 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 out the door. I mean, I was up in and out in 30 seconds because immediately I knew there's nothing in here that serves me. So it saves you time and money because you're not buying things that are not in the right color, saves you time shopping, and it certainly saves you time getting dressed in the morning. And you mentioned closets. I think if a lot of people now are like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of information, I'm not sure what to do about it, I tell people, just go into your closet and see what you have. So I worked with this woman. She was trying to level up to the next position at work. She was a higher end at a local college, a dean at a local college, and she was looking for a VP role that was about to open up. So she said, can you come look at my palette or come look at my closet? And I did her color palette. Black wasn't in it. And I opened her closet. It was 100% black. When I tell you there wasn't even white. I mean, there was nothing. It was black. So off we went shopping, and just putting her in her colors in a dressing room to see how her face brightened up and to see how other people in the dressing room were saying, oh my gosh, that color is amazing on you. And I'm sitting with her, but they don't know my role. I could be a friend, they don't know why I'm sitting with her, but the number of compliments she gets. So first of all, I say, just take a look in your closet. If it's all black, that's probably not good. Number one, it could indicate that you're hiding, that you want to hide behind the color black. What that's telling you psychologically is that you're not necessarily looking to be seen. You want to blend in if you're wearing so much black every day and only black. If you're wearing a pop of color underneath black and black's in your palette, that's great. It's a great look. The myth that you also mentioned, black is slimming. A color cannot make you look thinner. When it comes to slimming, you want to look at fit and things to, I hear all the time, I want to hide my belly. I don't like this. I have broad shoulders. I don't want to highlight my shoulders. So we talk about then fit and how to draw the eye away. So much of styling, color, fit, and everything is just illusion. It's really just visual illusion. We're directing people's eyes where we want them to go. So if we don't like our broad shoulders, then maybe we're going to wear brighter colored pants because we want to level that out. And we want people's eyes to not focus so much on our broad shoulders. And belly, you know, that again, black is not going to take away a menopause belly. I get asked all the time about this because a lot of people reach a certain birthday and they want a redo. You know, that's what I hear from a lot of people, right? If they're up for a job, if they want to, you know, elevate their look for work, or if it's a big birthday, or I'm going through menopause and none of my clothes fit, and I don't know why, and nothing looks good on me. So much of it is fit. So there's a big myth about the color black and it being slimming.
I'm learning so much, Colleen, even right down to, you know, I'll call myself out here. So, you know, you find that shirt that, or pair of pants that looks great on you. You feel good, you look good. So you buy it in other colors, or you buy it in the same style, but, you know, same fit, but different patterns. And then it arrives, you put it on, it's like, oh, like, why doesn't this look as good? Like, now I'm suddenly realizing why it doesn't look as good. Just because it's the same fit doesn't mean the colors or patterns are going to work.
Yes, 100%. And it's so so colors is, you know, individualized. We're looking at undertone and eye pattern, eye color and pattern. Fit, everybody's body is so different. So, you know, what I might pick out in a store if I'm shopping with you would not be what you pick out in a store, because I'm 5'10" and you're not. So, you know, we're looking at different things, even just for height and areas that we don't like, areas that we do like and want to highlight. And so that particular client I worked with had amazing legs. And so I put her in a pair of kind of like cigarette pants, and she came out of the dressing room with a blazer on, and her eyes, she was like, I never would have worn slim pants, because she thought in her mind she was bigger. And up top was what she was trying to, you know, we were trying to draw the eye down. When she put those pants on, it was like a whole new world for her. So when people say, you know, what's the biggest thing to focus on? Like, I want to change my look. I always say color and fit equally. I love color, and I talk a lot on my social media about color, as you know, but fit is so equally important. Knowing your body, knowing where to direct people's eye, all of that matters and can help you level up, whether it just be, you know, you're an at-home mom or you're in the office.
Okay, Colleen, I know you have more things to show us. What do you have here?
It's just, well, one other example, you know, is Taylor Swift. And this, you know, I went to that tour with my girls this summer. It was so fun. But, you know, you can see in these pictures, in the first picture, her hair color is absolutely cohesive with her skin and her coloring. What doesn't work there is she's wearing that kind of dark bronze that's too dark for her, and way too much eye makeup. In the second photo, I'm not sure what era that was, but it wasn't a good one for her, because the blonde is way off. And of course, the lip color, and she has black on. And then in this third photo here, she's wearing silver. She's warm toned. And we're going to see that in a second. Silver is pulling, even with the makeup, it's pulling the color from her face. When you go to the next slide, she's a light spring. And you can see that these colors, her hair, her makeup, the clothing that she's wearing, her jewelry, the second photo, she's kind of got a gold sequined dress on, warm toned. All of that is making her eyes pop, and she just looks so beautiful. I love this video, and this is Ashley. So I think that this is just such a powerful video to show people when they're like, how much does color really matter? Ashley was convinced that she was a winter. So what you see on top, the first drape you see, are winter tones. They're dark, they're deep, they're beautiful. If it's in your palette, if that's your palette, it is a gorgeous palette. It's funny, whoever's color analysis I'm doing at the moment becomes my favorite colors, because I look at them so often, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I was a winter. And I just did someone who was a winter.
It's gorgeous.
Right? The palette is beautiful if it's in your colors. So to show her that we're not, we pull the drape away, and you can look at the change in her skin. Her skin immediately warms up. And then as the video ends, the look on her face, because she's so surprised, she was certain that the top color, the winter color, she was certain those were her best colors, when really she was an autumn. So she was thinking and buying all cool toned clothing, when really she should be buying warm tone autumn clothing. And she's going through this process now of shopping and sending me texts, you know, is this autumn, is this in my palette, and you know, learning her new colors. But oh my gosh, when you see her in the autumn colors, what a difference. The winter colors were just, even with her dark hair, and we don't look at hair when we do color analysis, but even with her dark hair, they were just way too heavy for her skin tone. So I love that example. I think it really drives it home for people that color is powerful and what a difference it can make.
Wow. Okay, Colleen, before we wrap up, I think that the best place for people to start is really to connect with you, because I don't think there's really a way to navigate. I mean, you can Google and you can find things, and we all know that the Google does not answer all the questions or even the right questions. So tell us about your virtual, what you do virtually in order to provide a color analysis, because a lot of our audience members will not necessarily be in Virginia to do something in person. So what can you do virtually?
Oh, I can do anything virtually. I can even do fit virtually, and I can personal shop for you virtually. So now that we're in this new world of everything virtual post-COVID, I can do it all. I think that I just want to quickly say, I think there's a myth about working with a stylist that, oh, that's something, you know, millionaires do or people with a lot of money do. I don't have that kind of money. That is absolutely a myth. Once you pay for the service and a color analysis is less than $200, it never changes. Your colors are your color. Like I was diagnosed, analyzed as a spring a million years ago when I started in TV. So nothing has changed. All these years later, still a spring. When I go gray, I will still be a spring. So once you know your color palette, that's it for the rest of your life. Virtually, if you want to work with me, what I ask for are very specific photos, and I send you examples of this is what I need. I get those back. I do your color analysis through photos. You get a 7 to 10 page document, and then you also get this I love. It literally is like a Bible. So this is an autumn. This is a color wallet that goes in your purse. It's super tiny, and you can walk into a store, or even if you're shopping online, you're holding this up to the colors available or what you're looking at online. So you can get that virtually. I can also do a fit analysis. I just ask for a bunch of different photos for that. And then if you want a personal shop, I absolutely can shop for you once I know your best fit and your best colors. And all of that can be done virtually. And everything is custom packaged. So I work with people that have bigger budgets, and that's great because I can have a lot of fun with that. I work with people with very modest budgets. So once the services are purchased, if you require or want to continue on with a stylist or an image consultant or an analyst, we work within whatever money, you know. I always ask if I'm doing a personal shop with someone, what's your budget? I go, if it's in person, I go a day ahead and I pull all of the items. I have some stuff pulled back here for someone. Pull all the items, and then we go and shop the next day. Virtually, I have this state-of-the-art platform that I use and I love, so I can pop things into virtual closets for you, and you can just take a look at it from there. But I think the takeaway is, you said it at the beginning, that I always say image matters, and I so do, because people focus so much on their presentation skills and their work skill, and all of that absolutely is important, and you should be polishing your work skills and staying current. Just don't overlook your own image when you're doing so.
Absolutely. And I'm signing up for the virtual consult. Comment below if you want me to take you on that journey with me and Colleen. Colleen, that would be so fun, but only if people really want to see that. We'll put myself out there, and we can do that together if people want to. But Colleen, this has been amazing. I feel like I've already learned. I mean, I love following you on social media. I have since we worked together. But I love how you're constantly showing the do's and don'ts. And every time I learn something new, I think what's held me back is not the price, but perhaps the fear of not being able to wear my favorite colors anymore. But I'm going to let go of that fear, because I know that you'll be able to guide me to colors that are going to look and then feel ultimately better. You can't have a show or run a business without looking and feeling your best. So Colleen, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the show today. I really appreciated your tips and insights.
Thank you so much for having me. And I promise you'll be able to wear your favorite colors. It just may not be the shade that you have. We can all wear every color. It's just which shade that we can wear. So you will look amazing.
Well, I look forward to that, Colleen. That is all for this episode of Expert Connections. Catch more of our interviews in our Business Connection segment by clicking the box that pops up at the end of this video. While you're clicking around, make sure to subscribe and let Colleen and I know if you'd like to go on this color changing journey with me. I'm Julie Holton. We'll see you next time.